Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with another set of Duel videos. Today we are testing a tweaked version of the Magical Reptiles deck with Brilliant Fusion here. As a disclaimer, this is just a set of highlights from the testing session. Prior to this, I was experimenting with a bunch of playstyles, a bunch of tech choices, and quite honestly, there was a good string of games that I was losing every single round to my brother's Fright for deck. But these last 3 games in a row were actual consecutive duels that just happened to be I won every single one, partly because of luck, but also partly just because of different types of cards that work better in that particular matchup. So take these victories with a grain of salt, I guess, but I think it at least is useful to see the kinds of plays that this deck is capable of making so that going forward I'll be able to adjust the deck as needed to make it even better suited to fight whatever I expect to face in the long run. Again, this is just one of many testing sessions and I don't expect all games to go like this, but it was pretty entertaining of a session, so we're gonna go ahead and share this. So first off, this game here is one in which I open with Brilliant Fusion. So I just get the double summon off Seraphinite while getting Trick Clown, pretty standard stuff. Don't care about Breaker's effect, I literally just care about building as big a board as possible. King of the Fair Limbs helps extend my plays with Gigabyte, and so now in addition to the normal play I have here with these 2 monsters, I also have a Norden to extend the play further, allowing me to build an Abyss Dweller to shut off pretty much effects on the field and effects in the graveyard to hopefully prevent my opponent's first turn plays. And if you look here, by immediately going Dweller, what I've done is I prevented my brother from going and playing Fluffle Bear to fetch Toy Vendor, which would allow him to get free cards, especially off of drawing 2 and searching 1 with Fluffle Wings, which is a ridiculous combo. I had not been summoning Abyss Dweller before this time, mainly because this deck is really consistent at summoning these 2, but I figured Rafflesia would be a better choice. Maybe it was just my own personal bias that Rafflesia seems to be able to deal with more decks than just Burning Abyss. You know, Abyss Dweller can deal with Burning Abyss really well, but not necessarily every other deck gets totally shut down by Dweller turn 1. And so I had been using this as a later turn play, but I mean, this is the effect of it going first. He's basically forced to Stratos his way into another card. That's what the dog does in this deck. And instead of going for a big fusion sequence or drawing extra cards, he is now forced to just play it safe by setting his breakthrough skill instead. And then this allows my deck to build that momentum into an aggressive push. Basically what I did here was, with no back row, I used Rafflesia's effect to dump Treacherous from the deck, which freed up a monster zone, because since Rafflesia's effect is a monster effect, even though Treacherous would normally not kill the Rafflesia, the monster effect kills itself. So Rafflesia clears itself out of the position, which allows Trick Clown to hit the board while clearing his board for game, and that allows me to then drop the Gigabyte I have here to go for a Utopia the Lightning. He does block my Gagaga Samurai's ability to attack twice, and the main reason I added the Samurai is I noticed there were a lot of situations where I get really weak monsters on the board for free. Be Kage, Gigabyte, even Jurigato isn't necessarily always the strongest on its own if it's, let's say, brought off of Norden, because Instant Fusion prevents Norden from attacking, and then Norden prevents the other guy from using its effects, so I would just get a 17 beater in that case. Well, I thought Gagaga Samurai might be an interesting choice, and this was one game that I really feel did showcase its ability to help this deck muster aggression and just push for game. Of course, this is a game where you get that Brilliant Fusion, but I guess take this as kind of the reason why Brilliant Fusion does so much for this deck. It allows the deck to build such an impressive board that if the opponent has no response turn 1, when they're weakened by Abyss Dweller and Rafflesia, they're pretty much going to have a hard time coming back if they even survive. So that is game 1. Over in game 2, my brother decided, well, I'm not going to get stuck by Abyss Dweller by you. So for the first time in a very long time, he chose to go first with this deck, despite claiming that it doesn't really have much use for its proactive plays. Basically, all he's doing is using his monsters to bring up this board here of Saber Tiger and the Sheep. And he'll get some extra free cards off the way, but pretty much all that happens because he has the Rabbit, which lets him go and get whatever Fluffle or Edge monster he wants back when he uses it as fusion material. And Fluffle Wings drew him some cards as well. Pretty much that's the gist of it. Wings lets you draw, Rabbit recovers, and then Instant Fusion got him the first sheep that he was able to refuse with Sabertooth, and that recovered it. So this is really a tough board for me to deal with normally, but especially with no access to a special summon besides Instant Fusion, I'm basically forced to go and play Norden just to bring out an Xyz monster. But if you think in terms of goals here, I just want to get an Xyz play started. And the cool part in this deck is, yeah, Norden might be a one-card Xyz, but in this case, since Trick Clown comes back, as a spellcaster that I can now use the Gigabyte I just searched, it actually becomes a very powerful play because the Raigeki I just searched allows me to Abyss Dweller his board. And then he fights back with Tiger. And this is an interesting note to self about the back row. I actually tweaked the deck to include a variety of trap holes in addition to what I normally ran. I started with Bottomless Trap Hole, Floodgate Trap Hole, and Treacherous Trap Hole, mainly because Bottomless and Floodgate are just phenomenal. Bottomless is generically good. Floodgate is able to shut down decks like Burning Abyss and just a lot of other decks that need to make Synchro or Xyz plays, so it's quite good. And then the Treacherous was really in there in order to use Rafflesia as a follow-up play. So let's say you're going second, you could summon Rafflesia, pop 2 of your opponent's monsters, and then still have Rafflesia to defend you on the following turn, which allows you to actually get the 2 uses out of it. Usually Rafflesia gets baited out in 1 turn and then killed the next turn because your opponent won't burn cards into Rafflesia unless they can kill it. Treacherous is basically the way of dealing with that, turning Rafflesia into a more proactive form of removal. I didn't really like Solemn Scolding in the deck. It was just way too much of a life point cost, and it didn't really do anything for me. I wanted to try protecting myself from like Raigeki and stuff, but I was like, no one even plays Dark Hole. Twin Twisters is just going to kill the Scolding anyway, so it's just like, why not go and add more trap holes instead? So I went back to the Solemn Warning I used to play and a pair of extra trap holes, which are Time Space and Void, mainly because Void is interesting against certain monsters that have immunity to destruction. And in this case, it would help against a Sabertooth if it came first, but I ended up lucking into the Void trap hole to stop the Frightfur Tiger, which allowed me to prevent my board from dying. So yes, this is again a situation where the play was lucky, and that's kind of the weird clunkiness. I mean, you look here, I draw Treacherous, which isn't the best card at all, and honestly, that's the type of play that really could kill me off in a situation where that inconsistency causes me to stall enough for the opponent to capitalize. So I'm not sure if I'm going to play all these trap holes. Right now, I'm liking all of them in various situations. It's just going to have to take a little bit of extra experimentation. But I am kind of liking the Void trap hole's ability to stop monster effects that I normally can't with the other trap holes, because I feel like it fills a huge void that Traptrix Rafflesia's arsenal actually had. Here, I make a Daigusto Emerald with my normal summon so that I can go and recycle some cards. I basically knew that I could use Norden because I have the Instant Fusion. And let's see. I go and extend this play into a King of the Feral Imps, which lets me go and summon this. So at this point my brother's scooped, but pretty much what I was going to do is F0 is able to steal his monster just for the battle phase, so I can attack directly with 28. I can attack for the 23 here, and these two are going to go for a Gagaga Samurai and the extra. Combined with its double attack and Jurigato's attack pump, it would have done well over 10,000 damage in 1 turn. This deck just never has trouble pushing for damage. It's just trying to find some way to help it survive effectively in a really rigorous metagame where people fight back just as hard as I do. It's just finding the right defensive options is the challenge at the moment. We have a really special game here for Duel 3. This is literally just the definition of Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything crazy, wild, heart of the cards, you name it, just stuff that probably shouldn't happen anywhere besides the anime actually happening here. Let's go. So, I open with Garnet, which is kind of bad, but at least Brilliant Fusion's live because of that second one here. This is very similar to that first game. I'm able to go for the same field of King of the Feral Imps, Traptrix Rafflesia, and Abyss Dweller. So that's all I'm doing there, drawing some extra cards off of Star Drawing, searching a card off of this, and then I back it up with Solemn Warning, which is pretty good. And I even follow up with the Abyss Dweller to help prevent the Fluffle Wings play, but if you look at his hand there, he hits me with Twin Twisters to get rid of those. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Boom, Raigeki. Everything's gone. And at this point, I was just like, well, I mean, he had the out to a really astounding board. Fortunately for me, though, that Dweller did prevent the Fluffle Wings from resolving again, which was a very good thing, because imagine if he had 2 cards and then 1 card of his choice, a monster that he could fuse with this, he could have gone on with plays for days. So that Dweller did save me here. Main reason I went and summoned Jurigato is life points don't matter so much at the moment. I just wanted to have this so when I field the Breaker next turn, I would be able to make an Xyz play, because he was able to successfully kill that Trick Clown for the 2nd time that turn. I luck into a Brilliant Fusion, which looks dead until I die Gusto Emerald, and here in Recycle, I'm just like, well, maybe I'll draw an Instant Fusion. Boom. I somehow got Instant Fusion here. This allows me to continue my play, go for Norden again, bring back Star Drawing, who will let me draw a card as I get a double attacker on board. And then you look at that, the draw off of Star Drawing gave me another Star Drawing, and because Seraphonite's 2nd normal summon hadn't been used yet, I get to go and make a double Spellcaster summon for Trapeze Magician, so double attacker. This allows this to attack twice, and this. Oh my gosh, this is an OTK through a monster after getting basically Harpy's Feather Duster Raigeki'd turn 1. If this does not symbolize what can randomly happen with Yu-Gi-Oh, then I really don't know what does. It was an epic comeback that neither of us were expecting, but I honestly feel like it was just like one of those astonishing moments you just gotta appreciate as one of the random joys in Yu-Gi-Oh! So not always fun to lose to this, but I mean, like, things like this can happen in this type of game, and that's what always keeps it interesting. It's not necessarily over until that last card is played. So call it whatever you want. You can call it a luck sack, you can call it cheesy and whatever, but honestly, this type of game only happens every once in a while, and it is a lot of fun when it does, if you have the right mindset for it. So let me know down in the comments what you think of the deck so far. I think we're making progress on this. I do like the trap holes a lot more. It's just a bit too clunky. The trap holes aren't quite all I want in a defense, especially when they're limited to once per turn with Rafflesia. So still gotta experiment some with that. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. And I know I said the deck profile for this would be uploaded tomorrow on Friday, but I had actually forgotten. There's going to be an opening of the Dragons of Legend Unleashed tomorrow, so this deck profile will actually be next Friday when there is no opening, and I'll continue testing this deck for the duel videos for next week. See if we can perfect it even more before we go and put it on display. So thanks guys, this is JDGaming. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.